Hi, everyone. This is Nadine. If you want to support the creation of this podcast, please take the time to leave a 5-star written review, share this podcast, and tell a friend. You can also support us through the link in the show notes titled, Show Your Support, Buy Me a Coffee. Now, on with the show. Welcome to episode 19 of Haunted Canada, where we're going to delve into 3 ghost stories from across Canada. First, we're going to head to St. Andrews, New Brunswick, to hear about the many ghost stories surrounding the Algonquin Resort located in St. Andrews by the sea. Then, we're going to head to Niagara Falls in Ontario to hear the ghost stories of the Niagara Park Power Station that is haunted by Annette. And then we're going to finish in Vancouver, British Columbia to hear about the ghosts surrounding the iconic Vogue Theatre. The Algonquin Resort in St. Andrews, New Brunswick, commonly referred to as St. Andrews by the Sea, is a quaint seaside resort town that is deep in history and hauntings. In this beautiful picturesque community is the stunning Algonquin Resort that has many reported ghosts, including the woman in white whose fiancé vanished the day before the wedding, and the bellboy who is always assisting guests and entertaining them with stories about the history of the hotel, only to then vanish just as guests are about to offer the bellboy a tip. The historic hotel is chock full with over a dozen different ghost stories, if not more, that still continue to bring life and mystery to this unique resort. So much, in fact, that ghost tours are offered to visitors so that they can explore the many ghost stories and hauntings within the historic hotel. The Algonquin Resort was built in 1889 by railway conglomerate St. Andrews Land Company, and no expense was spared to ensure that the most luxurious hotel was built in New Brunswick. By 1907, the hotel was sold to the Canadian Pacific Railway Company, who kept control of the hotel until 1970. One of the most tragic things that happened at the hotel was a fire in 1914 that destroyed most of the historic hotel. Yet just 1 year later, by 1915, the hotel was completely rebuilt and restored with the Canadian Pacific Railway footing the bill. One of the most well-known ghost stories surrounding the hotel is that of the nightly watchman's spirit that is believed to be still wandering through the hallways to ensure that the hotel is safe and secure during the late-night hours. The legend of the watchman goes back to the early 1930s, when an older man was employed as the watchman, sometimes referred to as a security guard. This man worked at the hotel and he took his job very seriously. The watchman, who had dozens of hotel keys clipped on his belt, was known to walk the hotel corridors and grounds late at night to ensure that all the doors were locked and secured. He would do this until the wee hours of the morning, ensuring that everything was safe and secure for all the hotel guests. As the hotel is an enormous structure encompassing 233 rooms and suites, along with the surrounding grounds, including an outdoor pool and a golf course, the watchman made sure to walk all the areas of the resort nightly. The watchman would often be seen by staff and guests quickly walking throughout the hotel and the outside grounds late at night, and people could always hear him coming, as the keys that were hooked to his waist belt would often jingle and jangle. This, of course, was always a clear sign that he was in the area. The watchman loved working at the Algonquin Resort, so much so that he considered his coworkers his family, and he considered the resort his home. When the watchman didn't show up for his shift one day, some of his coworkers went to check on him, and when they opened the door to his room in the employees' quarters of the hotel, they found him dead. Sadly, he had passed away in his sleep. And folded neatly next to him by the side of his bed was the watchman's uniform, ready for him to wear the very next day at his shift. To this day, many believe that it is the spirit of the watchman that is still wandering through the hotel hallways, ensuring that the hotel is safe and secure for everyone. Over the years, employees and guests have often heard the sounds of someone walking in the hotel hallways late at night, and the sounds of keys jingling and jangling together. Yet once staff and guests look down the empty hallways, there's never anybody there. While on other occasions, guests report that when they're out for their evening stroll on the hotel grounds, walking on the pathways, that they can hear the sounds of the keys jingling together, only to notice a man dressed in early 1920s attire coming out of nowhere, just walking briskly past them. The apparition of the man never says a word, seems to have a focused yet stern look on his face, and just keeps walking forward. Guests report that as the watchman walks away, he just vanishes in front of them, yet they can still hear the sounds of the keys echoing all around them. One story that I came across goes back to the 1980s when a couple had planned a weekend stay at the Algonquin Resort. They had arrived late one Friday evening just as a foggy mist was settling on the parking lot area. As the couple got their luggage out of the back of their vehicle, they sort of got a bit disoriented with the misty fog as to which way was the front desk, when all of a sudden they began to hear the sounds of keys jingling and jangling all around them, when all of a sudden, out of the mist, appeared a man in a 1930s watchman's uniform. The couple asked the mysterious man if he could direct them towards the front desk. And without saying a word, the ghost of the watchman just pointed in the direction of the front entrance. As the couple began to thank the mysterious man, he just walked off and disappeared into the mist. But the couple could still hear the sounds of the keys jingling and jangling all around them as they quickly made their way inside the hotel. To this day, everyone believes that it is the watchman who sadly died inside the hotel that is still doing his nightly rounds at the place that he considered his home. Another famous ghostly apparition that is almost as old as the hotel itself is that of a bellboy that is often seen wandering throughout the hotel. Over the last 100+ years, there have been dozens of reports from guests and employees having encounters with this phantom bellboy. Guests report that as they're walking throughout the hotel and admiring the history and the architecture, that they're often approached by a young boy dressed in an old-style bellboy uniform. The young boy politely greets the guests and begins to entertain them with the history and the folklore of the hotel, recounting stories that only someone that has worked there for decades would have known. The bellboy has the guests enthralled with his storytelling ability as they eagerly await his next entertaining tale. Yet when the bellboy finishes and begins to depart the area, the guests always want to show their appreciation by giving the bellboy some money as a gratuity or a tip. Yet just as the guests are about to hand the young bellboy a tip, he vanishes from the area, completely baffling the guests, wondering where he went to. Guests have even gone to the front desk to inquire about the entertaining bellboy, wanting to leave a gratuity for him. And it's at that point when the staff at the Algonquin Resort have to inform the guests that they just had an entertaining run-in with a ghost known as the bellboy. Another ghostly tale that the hotel is famous for goes back to 1914 when a massive fire burnt a lot of the hotel structure. While a large portion of the hotel was destroyed, the painter wing, kitchen wing, and the tower were spared from the fire, and two very important items were saved from the fire when a bellman ran into the burning hotel and pulled out a piano and a bell table. Why the bellman ran into the burning hotel to save those items is still unknown to this day, but by doing so, he was able to save a piece of history, and those two items are on display in the hotel lobby, and the piano, in particular, is said to be haunted. The piano is an upright antique grand piano from the 1890s, with carved panels on the front that also has a lock panel that you can flip over the ivory keys. It has been reported that guests who are staying at the hotel, especially on the second floor in any of the rooms ranging from room 240 up to and including room 260, that late at night when the guests are in those rooms in their beds drifting off to sleep, that they can often hear the sounds of the piano being played. While most guests enjoy the beautiful piano music being played late in the evening, it often becomes quite annoying as the piano music never seems to stop. It often continues to the point where guests will either call the front desk or get out of their warm beds and head down to the front desk to request that the music stop, as they can hear the music in their rooms and it's keeping them awake. This is when the hotel staff have to have that awkward conversation with the guests to let them know that no one is playing the antique piano, and that the piano is actually locked so that nobody can access the ivory keys. Yet when the guests continue to insist that they can hear the piano being played, that's when the staff at the hotel have gone as far as to show the piano to the hotel guest and pull on the piano key cover section to prove that it is locked and no one is able to open it. The guests are always left bewildered and shocked as they head back to the room. Another sad ghost story surrounding the historic Algonquin Resort goes back to the 1950s when a young couple from the area were getting ready to be married at the hotel. A beautiful young lady was set to marry a local fisherman, and they had chosen to have their wedding at the prestigious Algonquin Hotel. The day before the wedding, the bride was getting everything in place. Her dress was being fitted, and her flowers were being arranged for the big day, while her fiancé, a fisherman, had to go out to sea for his job, something that he had done 1,000 times before. Yet sadly, the young man, who was to be married the very next day, never returned. It is believed by many that the young man drowned in the ocean. Tragically, his body and boat were never found. The young bride spent what was supposed to be her wedding day crying in room 473. Her pain and heartache could be heard throughout the entire hotel that day. A day that was supposed to be the most happiest day of her life turned into the most tragic. By late afternoon, the hotel staff went to room 473 to check on the woman to see if she needed anything. Yet when the staff entered the bride's room, they found her dead on the bed. Many believe that she died of a broken heart. To this day, people can often hear the sounds of a woman crying coming from room 473 when the room is empty. While on other occasions, people who have stayed in room 473 have often said that they have a restless night's sleep, while also feeling a great sense of sadness in the room as soon as they walk in. While in the main dining room of the hotel, the apparition of a senior staff maid dressed in 1920s attire is often seen still working there to this day.
Break free from the ordinary and check out a podcast with thought-shattering concepts that will reshape the way you interpret the world.
We are the Swerve Podcast, and our mission is very simple. Each episode, we research and discuss topics that swerve off the mainstream path in an attempt to understand everything in the universe, one obscure topic at a time.
Whether you're into forgotten history, cutting-edge science, strange frontiers of the unknown, or just need a good laugh in an uncensored way, the Swerve Podcast has you covered.
Listen to the Swerve Podcast today on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other major platforms.
Employees say that when they're in the dining room preparing for any functions at the hotel, that they'll often see a woman dressed in 1920s attire placing dishes on the table, ensuring that the cutlery is in the proper position and that the linen is neatly folded. On many occasions, staff have approached this unknown worker asking her what her name was or what department that she worked in. Yet the mysterious woman never answers anyone. She just continues working and then suddenly just vanishes in front of the employees. While other people report seeing a little boy known as Ben running about the 4th floor of the hotel. Legend has it that back in the 1920s, the young boy named Ben was in a room on the 4th floor with his parents. To pass the time, little Ben was throwing a red ball, around the hotel room and against the walls, when his red ball bounced out of an open window. As the young boy climbed out of the window to try to grab his ball that was stuck on the roof, sadly, little Ben fell out of the window, falling to the ground and to his death. To this day, staff say that when they're walking in the hallway on the 4th floor, that they can hear the sounds of a ball hitting against the wall. While on other occasions, people report seeing a little boy running throughout the hallways, chasing after a red ball or throwing a red ball at the wall and then catching it. Legend has it that it is the apparition of Ben, the young boy who died in the 1920s when his ball went out the window and he fell to his death trying to retrieve it. The amount of ghost stories and hauntings at the Algonquin Resort seem to be endless, so here's one more. Many guests and staff report that in the evening, when the sun is going down and it's getting dark, and as they're walking around the grounds of the beautiful hotel, that they'll often see mysterious lights flashing on and off in the tower area. While even more eerie is that front desk staff have reported getting phone calls from empty rooms or phone calls from sections of the hotel that are closed off and not open to the public. With almost a dozen, if not more, documented ghost stories and hauntings reported at the beautiful Algonquin Resort in St. Andrews, New Brunswick, it truly is an amazing place for a weekend getaway, a paranormal encounter, or perhaps a ghost hunt for anyone who is fascinated with ghosts, hauntings, and the truly spooky. The Niagara Park Power Station in Niagara Falls, Ontario, formerly known as the Canadian Niagara Power Company Generating Station, was a source of electricity for over 100 years. The vision to have the power plant built was that of businessman and lawyer William Rankin, and legend has it that it is the ghost of William's wife, Annette, that is still wandering throughout the power station to this day. Many people wanted to harness the power of Niagara Falls in the early 1900s, but it was William Rankin, the head of the Canadian Niagara Power Company, who had the vision to create the power station utilizing the power of the falls based off the designs of Nikola Tesla. Yes, that Tesla. The former hydroelectric generating station contained 11 generators, each with vertical steel shafts that would draw water into the forebay and drop 180 feet before it was expelled into a 2,200-foot tunnel that emptied into the lower Niagara River right at the base of Horseshoe Falls. Many people believe that William Rankin was married to his job, as he was constantly at the power station during construction. Even Nikola Tesla said that, quote, William was a man who worked while other people slept. The Niagara Falls Power Company needed a method that would enable the transmission of electricity over long distances. Thomas Edison promoted his direct current, the DC method, but it was Nikola Tesla's alternating current, the AC transmission system, that won the contract to illuminate Niagara Falls and ultimately allowed for the large-scale use of hydroelectric power. After many years of construction, the power plant was finally completed, making William Rankin a very wealthy man. When the Stone Gray Power Station was finally completed in 1905, William Rankin found some time to marry the love of his life, Annette Norton, on February 23, 1905, in St. Peter's Church. The two were deeply in love with each other and looking forward to starting their life together. However, the fairy tale story would soon be cut short when on September 30th, 1905, just 7 months after they were married, William, who was only 47 years old, died of a massive heart attack. He was buried in the Riverdale Cemetery in Niagara Falls, New York, overlooking the Niagara River. Annette was distraught with the loss of her husband and completely inconsolable. Annette had a firm belief in psychics and mediums and would use them on different occasions to try to connect with her dead husband, William, in the afterlife. Annette was a very wealthy woman, and money was no object, so she spent thousands of dollars each week consulting with psychics and mediums trying to reach and connect with her dead husband. Annette was so obsessed trying to connect with William that she spent the next 16 years and a lot of her fortune doing so. Annette was even quoted in a newspaper article when talking about trying to connect with her dead husband, saying that, quote, "Oh, if the spirits of the dead could only come back and speak to me, I think I could be satisfied. If there was no life after death, and the spirits of our dead cannot come back to me, I think I could be satisfied. If there was no life after death, and the spirits of our dead cannot come back to us, then why is it wrong for us to try to go to them, or into wherever the darkness is?" Yet, as each year passed by, it seemed that Annette became even more distraught and depressed with the loss of her husband, and vowed that she would follow him into death. Annette was even described by many as being melancholy and spoke often of going to the afterlife to be with her beloved William. Edmonton Ghost Tours is Alberta's #1 ghost tour company, hosted by an award-winning storyteller, offering 6 different spooky and entertaining walking tours, including ghost tours in Old Strathcona, the University of Alberta Ghost Tours, haunted pub tours, cemetery tours, e-bike tours, and haunted trolley tours. If you want to learn about the darker side of Edmonton and hear true stories of ghosts, hauntings, murders, and mysteries, join us on one of our many tours. To learn more or to book a tour, visit our website, edmontonghosttours.com. On April 1st, 1921, Annette Rankin, dressed in her warm fur coat, was out for a drive in her black limousine along the banks of the Niagara River when she asked her chauffeur to stop and stated that she was going to get out and go for a walk and would return. The chauffeur waited by the limousine, but Annette never returned. The mystery of what happened to Annette was on the front page of every paper in the United States and Canada and shocked the entire family, with many private investigators and local police searching day and night for the wealthy widow. After a month, Annette's body was pulled from the river and it was determined that she had killed herself by jumping into the Niagara River on the evening of April 1st. When her bank account was examined, Annette had left behind $500,000. Annette Rankin was buried next to her beloved husband, William Rankin, in the Riverdale Cemetery in Niagara Falls, New York, overlooking Niagara River. Yet to this day, it is believed that Annette's ghostly spirit still wanders throughout the Niagara Falls power plant on the Canadian side of the river. Since 1921, the ghost of Annette has been seen walking throughout the power plant. Many who see the ghostly apparition describe seeing a beautiful, elegant woman with dark hair wearing a fur coat. Staff and visitors alike report that when they're walking throughout the facility, they'll often catch a glimpse of a woman wearing a fur coat standing on one of the platforms. Even at the end of the day, when the staff are getting ready to close up the facility, they'll often catch a glimpse of Annette amongst the generators just staring at them. While tourists who are visiting the plant report that when they're stopping to read some of the plaques talking about her husband William Rankin's contribution to creating the power plant, visitors often get a feeling or a sense as if someone's standing right next to them, and some visitors even report hearing someone whispering in their ear, saying, "William." To this day, everyone believes that it is the ghost of Annette Rankin and that she's still wandering throughout the power plant, still searching for her beloved husband William, even in the afterlife. Currently, there are plans underway to revitalize the power station and turn it into a world-class hotel, and I'm sure that once this happens, that Annette and the many ghosts and legends surrounding Niagara Falls will continue to wander throughout the old power station, creating a haunting atmosphere for everyone who walks into the historic building. On historic Granville Street in Vancouver, British Columbia, is the iconic Vogue Theatre that is instantly recognizable by its iconic neon sign and the beautiful Art Deco building. The Vogue Theatre opened in 1941 on what was known as Theatre Row and was a very popular movie house and performance venue that was filled every night with people looking forward to sitting in the velvet seats to take in a show, with the very first movie being shown at the Vogue Theatre being a black and white 1938 hockey comedy film called Icy Ice, starring George Formby and Kay Walsh. After nearly 47 years of success, sadly, the theater closed in 1988 after decline in attendance and sales. The building itself has changed with the times, and while it no longer offers movies as it was completely revamped in 1991, today it is now one of the most popular locations in Vancouver, hosting nearly 200 events each year, including festivals and live music. The Vogue has been a stop for many singers and songwriters in the early stages of their careers, including Nelly Furtado, Elvis Costello, and The Last Dinner Party. While the Vogue Theatre is known for movies and performances, it seems that it's the ghosts at the Vogue that continue to keep everyone entertained and scared. The theatre is believed to have 2, if not more, ghosts wandering throughout the Vogue, and is full of sightings of ghosts and three-dimensional figures, stories that have been passed down from employees and performers over the last 47 years, that include having eerie encounters with strange, three-dimensional-looking ghosts and apparitions with dark hair, hearing phantom footsteps in the basement hallway known as the Haunted Highway, and seeing a faceless ghost appear and then vanish. The most common ghost that resides in the historic theater is that of a man described as having dark hair and severe facial features. Over the years, performers and staff have witnessed the apparition of the man in different spots throughout the theater, including wandering through the audience while actors are performing, walking on the catwalk above the stage, hanging out in the projection room, and scaring people as they walk through the hallway in the basement, otherwise known as the Haunted Highway. The basement corridor that leads to the dressing rooms is the most spookiest location in the theater that many performers and employees try to avoid, and has been christened the Haunted Highway, as staff and actors report getting an icy cold feeling when they're walking in the hallway. Performers have reported that when they're in the dressing rooms in the basement of the Vogue Theatre, that they can often hear doors slamming and loud footsteps in the haunted hallway. Yet when performers look out into the hallway, they can often catch a glimpse of what appears to be a tall man dressed in a white tuxedo with a black bow tie. The ghostly figure of the tall man wearing the white tuxedo has been seen and documented numerous times over the years, and has even been seen by singers and performers as they're getting ready to leave their dressing rooms and head upstairs to perform. Other employees report seeing a ghost known as the man with the dark hair, who is often viewed in the projection room or walking along the catwalk. A former manager by the name of Bill, who was interviewed in a book called Ghosts of Vancouver, recounted his own personal experience with the dark-haired ghost, stating that, quote, "One day I was locking up the carpentry room in the basement, and I got the distinct feeling that someone was behind me. When I turned around, I saw what I described as a three-dimensional shadow going by the door. So I scrambled out into the hallway, and there was no one there. I was the only one around. I left the theater relatively quickly after that." While on another occasion, a musician was on the main stage rehearsing for an upcoming performance at the Vogue Theater when he looked out into the empty audience and saw a mysterious man with dark hair just appearing in front of him. When this happened to the musician who was on the stage rehearsing, he stopped playing, as he noticed that the mysterious man had no face. It was just blank. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. The face was blank. The musician just stood there for a few moments and then noticed that the man with no face just vanished right in front of him. The musician went on to have a great show later that night, but he couldn't shake the feeling of what he had seen that day in the empty theater. Even stranger is the fact that employees have said that when they're in the theater by themselves, cleaning or closing up at the end of the night, that they can hear the sounds of someone playing the drums and the guitars. Now, this is always when there's nobody in the theater at that time. This, of course, always terrifies that lone employee that's there at the end of the evening, yet when they go to check the stage to see who's playing the instruments, there's nobody there. The stage is completely empty and the sound always stops. Yet as soon as the employee walks away and turns their back to the stage, they begin to hear the sounds of drums and guitars playing again. Most employees are so used to the musical instruments on stage being played by the phantom ghosts late at night that now they just ignore it and usually just leave the building at the end of the evening to the sounds of the unknown music without ever looking back. While the Vogue Theater in Vancouver, British Columbia is not only an iconic and sought-after venue for musicians and performers, it is also known as one of the most haunted historical theaters in all of Vancouver, with legendary ghosts including the dark-haired man, the man with the white tuxedo, and the infamous Haunted Highway. Well, everyone, that is the end of episode 19 of Haunted Canada, and I wanted to thank everyone for listening, and also thank you to the show sponsor, the Swerve Podcast. I will link it in the show notes. Give it a listen. It's a great podcast. If you would like to support the continuation of the Haunted Canada podcast to hear more episodes, please follow the podcast, give us a like, tell a friend, and leave us a 5-star written review, as that always does help. Also, you can follow us on our different social media platforms, or if you have a ghost story, haunting, or true crime that you would like for us to cover on this podcast, please email us to our website, hauntedcanada.com. Have a good night, everyone, and stay haunted.